Hi everyone, welcome to this week's episode of Women in Business. I am so excited to be here with you. My name is Maria Froese. I am your host, and I am so excited to introduce you to Cindy. Good morning, Cindy.
Good morning.
How are you doing today?
Good. How are you?
I'm fabulous, thank you. Thanks for joining me here on the Women in Business episode. It is very exciting to have someone on who can teach me a little bit about the real estate world. So I'm very excited to learn some things about that. But why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself first, Cindy?
Okay, I've been in business since 2007.
Okay.
So I started working with Remax in Winnipeg actually in 2007. Took a couple years for, to have a family, to have more children. And then when I got back in business in 2010, I started working with St. Pierre Realty out of St. Pierre, Manitoba.
Okay.
And so I've been there ever since until 2019 when I joined with Keller Williams out of Winnipeg. So I have 3 kids. I live near St. Pierre.
Okay.
So I work a lot in the southeast as well as southern Winnipeg and other areas as well.
Awesome. That sounds good. So you're a mom and a businesswoman, and so you've got the many hats going on here. That's what you have. Yes, absolutely. Okay, so tell me a little bit, like, why real estate? How did you choose real estate? What made you, like you said, you took a break to have kids, to have more kids, and that kind of thing, and then you went back to it. So tell me, why did you choose real estate to begin with?
Well, my grandfather actually owned St. Pierre Realty. He started
really?
the company in 1981. So I remember being young and being in the car with him and visiting properties, and I kind of grew up with that a little bit. So that always influenced my decision. Also, real estate it's not a 9-to-5 job. And I've always been a bit of a free spirit. So I like to make my own hours. I like doing different things like creative marketing, doing some research on different areas, meeting new people, trying to find out how I can help people, meet their real estate needs. So whether it's buying a new home or buying a new business, it definitely makes life interesting. No 2 days are the same. There's a lot to learn in real estate, so it's constantly a challenge. It's not something you really get bored of when you're working into it.
Right. Something that always offers you something more to work with or to learn.
Exactly. Always something new, always something to learn. It's definitely interesting.
I believe that. Absolutely. And so when you're working with different clients and stuff like that, I imagine that selling me a house is very different than selling someone else a house, right? Because you learn the people.
Yeah, everybody's got different needs, families, whatever different areas they're looking into. Some people own side businesses, so they need room for that. Some people want to buy a commercial building and start a business. So they're about the people history of their business and why they're doing what they're doing, which is always very interesting as well.
Yes, for sure. And like you said, everybody has different needs. So that's something that you're constantly evaluating as a real estate agent, is to be able to see what can I do to serve your needs.
Exactly.
To find what you're looking for. That's really awesome. That is good. So as a real estate agent, you said things are constantly learning and you're constantly changing. And so you're always learning and growing. There's never, a dull moment when you're doing that. What are some kinds of things that maybe that you've learned over the last, let's say 6 months? Something that you've learned over the last 6 months?
Definitely some technology tools. With COVID especially, I think we're doing a lot of our work now online. We're meeting and all that. But there's definitely new tools that came into play when it comes to marketing as well. So us realtors are using now new platforms to market our properties. We're doing more videos and more live tours, things like that. So we need to learn all the technology that goes behind it, how to use it, and how to use it quickly from one property to the next so that we can present it to clients quickly and efficiently.
Right. That is, you're absolutely right. 100% of that stuff that you're doing online that you would have done in person, a lot of the things. So tell me a little bit about what your day looks like under the COVID restrictions. Tell me a little bit about what that looks like for you when you're looking at selling a house and how that might be different than when you would normally sell it in a non-pandemic.
Well, normally I would head to the office in the morning and do a little bit of work from there. And then I would have appointments in person with clients, whether it's to take on listings or to show properties throughout the afternoon and the evening. Nowadays, I guess my office is closed. So I'm working from home, which I don't mind, but it's definitely different to get used to having a home workspace. Doing a lot of those Zoom calls and FaceTimes with my clients. Unfortunately, having to teach a lot of my clients how to use those platforms as well. So it's a lot of learning for me as well as for them. And even showing the properties. I've been showing a lot of properties myself, just walking through the property and doing a FaceTime or presenting videos to my clients because they prefer not to move too much if they don't have to.
Right.
Just properties on my own, and then they'll pick one or two to visit in person later on.
Okay, that makes sense. So that way you can kind of do some preliminary showing without them actually going into the home, and then later on that they can go into afterwards. Yes. Okay, got it. And like you said, teaching people how to use the platforms so that you can show them, you know, the properties and things like that. That's got to be tricky too. I never actually thought of that point, that you're not just learning how to do it, you're teaching others on how to use the platforms who may not be using them on a regular basis like you are. Yes, absolutely. Yeah. Because that's such a pivot, is to go everything online. So it's such a pivot, and a lot of people who are still working out of the home don't have any need for Zoom or all these kind of platforms, right? So a little bit tricky. Yes. Yeah. Perfect. So that's good. Excellent. Sorry about that. I think my computer is freezing a little bit here, so I'm hoping that it doesn't do the same things it did to me the other day. So let's just hope that we can have a smooth transition here. Perfect. So as working at home and you have children, how is that working out for you? How are you balancing that?
It was very interesting last March when they closed the schools and the kids were home. I have a 6-year-old, an 8-year-old, and a 14-year-old. Okay. So as of now, my 14-year-old is doing school full-time at home for the requisite 2 weeks. Hopefully they won't extend it too long, but so we'll see how that goes. He's doing okay. He's got his computer, so he does his school 9 o'clock to 3:30, and I barely see him really. We have lunch together, which is really nice. My other two still go to school. So we take the school bus in the morning. My 10-year-old wears a mask all day at school, and you know, at that age you get used to it really quickly. So he's okay with it. And my youngest is 8, so he only wears a mask on the school bus, and his school day is relatively unchanged compared to what it was before. Okay. I mean, they do have different regulations. They have to wash their hands more often. There's new protocols, but he's still in class with his classmates, and he seems to be enjoying it.
Yes, that makes sense. That's good then. Excellent. So that's nice that your kids are still in school, and that for the most part that they can actually still continue, because yes, you're right. When they did have the school shut down, I know a lot of moms who were like, this isn't working. This doesn't work for me. So it's a little bit tricky, you know, for all of those kind of things. So wearing that mom hat and work hat at the same time, when we're used to going to an office and having that space to bring it all home, is very challenging. So what do you think is the most challenging part of that for you?
The time management, I think. Like even this morning, my oldest computer didn't work, and it's a computer from the back. So that before his classes started at 9 o'clock, and I had to shuffle my things around and get ready for my day. So there's definitely a lot of time management involved when it comes to everybody's schedules and making everything work. And also, because we've never lived through this kind of a pandemic, we just don't know what's going to happen tomorrow. There's always new, the children have more needs. They have specific things that they need to do for school. And it seems to always be last minute, because nobody's really expecting what tomorrow brings, right? So we need to be on the lookout for those and try to roll with the punches, I guess.
Exactly. No, I hear that for sure. Absolutely. Like you said, we can't predict what's going to happen. So everything is really last minute. These changes, everything, a lot of that is last minute. So that's different. Time management, I think, is a struggle no matter what. But when you're in an office, you're in a setting where you can actually just be like, okay, this is what I'm doing now here. You know, I don't have to do anything else in between. That is easier to keep the time management. But when you're at home, working from home, and there are certain things that need to be done at certain times while you're at home. So it is definitely a struggle, I can see, for sure. Is there some way that you stay on top of that for time management?
You know, the first few weeks were a bit of a struggle here. We definitely had kids running up and down the stairs while I was trying to be in meetings and all that. But we got used to it really quickly. I just start my meetings a little bit later than I used to. So I'll do more admin work in the morning now instead of meetings, so that my children can get ready for school and my oldest can settle with his classes. And then I try to book my meetings, and I call it quiet time on the computers, talking to people. I try to schedule those when my kids are actually in class, and they won't necessarily be coming in and out and asking for snacks or whatnot.
That makes sense. That's really good to try and do that for sure. I find too that a lot of the women
switch my schedule to match theirs a little bit more.
Yes, and see, and that's exactly kind of what we do then, right? We can switch that and kind of maneuver that around a little bit to make sure that that fits with our family, right?
Yes.
So Cindy, what are some obstacles that you have faced as a woman in your industry? What is something that you could, share with us, that an obstacle that you faced?
Women still face gender disparity issues in the workforce. And especially in business, I think, although society is headed in the right direction, we need to realize that there's still some stigmas associated with being a woman in business. The lack of strength and power, for example, or some people might think we're too emotional or we have too much empathy to succeed in the business world. And sales and negotiations have always been, I guess, at the core of any business, but they've been associated with more masculine personas, perhaps.
Right.
So lacking the strength and the power and being too emotional obviously works against that. Unfortunately, those are just stigmas that we're dealing with. I know a lot of women who are very successful in business, and we're not emotional messes, like some people say, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And here's the thing that I think is that for as a woman, in that, yes, you do lack the strength and power, maybe perhaps like that kind of thing. But the more knowledge that you have, the more that you can serve the more that you can serve your clients, that is where you're going to stand apart, right? And
exactly.
Also the empathy part of it actually allows you to have that stronger connection. So where people can feel that they're connected with you versus just feeling like you're another client. So I think that there definitely are good points as well for us women in that aspect too. But you're right, it probably still does happen. And you're right, it's just a stigma.
Yeah.
It really is.
And the business world has changed a lot too in the past 20 years. It used to be like a dog eat dog world where everybody was negotiating, everything was about sales and contracts and getting that signature. There's a lot of bullies out there in the business world, and I think now people are looking more for that person that they can relate to. They're looking for someone who can educate them and teach them about an industry they may not be familiar with. So this is where our qualities are being more and more, I guess, not sure how to say this. You might want to cut this out a little bit too, but
Yeah, absolutely. The thing is that they're being more noticed and they're being more utilized. I would say that's for sure. That's something there as well, right? For sure. Awesome. Okay, well, when we come back from the clip, we are going to talk a little bit here about what your tips are for women starting their own businesses. We're going to talk a little bit about what you think that we can chat about with that. So let's go to our commercial break and we'll be right back. Welcome back, you guys. I'm Maria Froese, your host of the Women in Business Show, and I'm here sharing with Cindy Grenier. We're talking about being a woman in the real estate business, and also as a mom who is working from home during the restrictions, what kinds of things that have had to change her days lately. So, Cindy, so we're just before the break, I just mentioned that we're going to talk about what kind of tips you would have for women who are starting in your industry. So let's say a woman who wants to become a real estate agent. What are some tips that you could have for her?
I would say, I would tell her to say yes to the opportunities. She'll be faced with a bunch of opportunities to join different offices or enter mentorship relationships with other agents, and just take those opportunities, even if some of them take you out of your comfort zone, because you'll learn from them. You'll gain so much learning experience from those opportunities. You'll learn to roll with the punches. You'll fall flat on your face, but you'll come back up and you'll have learned so much more and gained so much more experience and so many more contacts in your industries that you just don't want to shut those doors.
Absolutely. Like when you say that, you say yes to the opportunities. You're absolutely right. That's, I think, the hardest part sometimes is to say, well, that is very much outside my comfort zone.
Exactly.
That's not what I was thinking that I was going into here. And so when you have that opportunity to go into it, you are stepping out of your comfort zones for sure.
Yeah,
absolutely. So what part of, like, when someone is, what kind of opportunities might there be for someone? You said a mentorship with someone else. What does that mean? Like someone who wants to step into the real estate world, what is a mentorship?
Well, my advice would be to meet with a lot of other realtors and competitors out there, because there's always one of them who's willing to teach you the ropes and show you around and I guess teach you what they've learned throughout the years in the real estate world when it comes to marketing or meeting with clients or when it comes to drafting contracts. And it's probably the best learning experience you can get because it's hands-on, but you're working with someone who has so much experience that they can teach you. That a lot of newer realtors are looking for those mentorship opportunities. So joining an office and just even asking for those opportunities around to see what other realtor would be willing to take on one of the new realtors. There's many ways of getting into those relationships.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's awesome. That is really awesome, because that's the thing. I think that when you go to work, let's say you go to a regular job, you have somebody, your shift supervisor or something like that, that's going to teach you the ropes. They're going to teach you what you need to do, what you're not supposed to do, that kind of thing. Your boss is going to tell you. But when you step into something like real estate, it's a very different world. It's a very different market. And so now you do need someone who's going to be able to help show you those things and what has, been time tested and proven and kind of works really well versus something that is, something that has to be changed and that kind of thing. Do you think that you notice the difference in how you've had to, I don't even know how to say this exactly, but like change your game, change your strategy from the first time that you went into real estate to when you came back to real estate? Do you think there's a lot of things that changed over that period of time, or is it quite similar to when you first started?
Oh, it changed definitely, for sure. Yeah. In 2007 is when I started, and Facebook was a platform that some people used, but we barely advertised on. I don't know if you remember those days, but it was, online marketing was almost non-existent for small businesses. You had to have your own website. It was pricey, running Google ads and whatnot. And nowadays you can advertise on social media. You can advertise practically anywhere. There's so many platforms available. Still have to learn the new platforms. They're constantly changing, but that's definitely one of the bigger changes in the industry for us as realtors. As well, like I mentioned earlier, it used to be more of a business world where people would walk in with contracts and expect the signatures and the sales to go through, where now we're working much more for the customer, I guess, and we have much more protecting the buyers and the vendors when it comes to real estate transactions. So our business has shifted from being just a real estate business to really being a customer service business, where we're helping people go through the motions of buying and selling a home, instead of just looking for that signature and that sales contract.
Right. And that is actually very important to note, because I think a lot of people don't understand. Now correct me if I'm wrong, because I believe this is still how it works. But when I was looking at buying my last home, we actually went to a real estate. We thought we want to see these houses that you have, right? And they were like, well, why don't you use us as your realtor to help you look at all the other houses? So one thing it was very interesting to me that the real estate agent was really wanting to work for us. They were actually wanting to take us on and show us the houses from everywhere versus us going from real estate to find the houses that they had up on the market. Does that make sense? Like what I'm trying to say there?
Exactly. And, for buyers out there who are looking to purchase a property, it's a free service to hire a realtor. We actually get paid by the vendor once we close the deal. So buyers don't need to dish out any money for this. You just approach a real estate company that you trust. You can interview realtors. You can pick your realtor, one who will represent you in the transaction and make sure that your needs are met, but that you're also protected throughout the transaction, versus working perhaps with a realtor who's already working with a vendor and who's really looking after the vendor's needs.
Correct. And that's what I think was the biggest kind of eye-opener for me, was that, when my parents bought houses, it was like you went because that's the sign that's in front of the house. And now it was such a difference where it's like they're actually wanting to work for you. So what are some things, when you're talking, you could interview a real estate agent, what is something that you would ask a real estate agent, like, if they're going to be taking care of your needs, what's something that you would ask them to make sure that they are a fit for you?
Well, it depends what you're looking at buying. I would say if you're looking at purchasing a condo, you might want to work with a realtor who's familiar with the condo markets. Also, the transactional process of buying a condo versus buying a house is very different. So you need to work with someone who's worked in that line, I guess. Same with commercial. Obviously, if you're looking for a commercial real estate property, then you might want to work with a realtor who does mostly commercial deals and who knows the area you're buying in, because bylaws are different from one area to another. So you need to ensure you're hiring a realtor who really has the knowledge to meet your needs and do the research in the area that you're looking into buying. To find that right realtor, don't hire a realtor if you're buying in Winnipeg, you don't want to hire a realtor who works in the Brandon area, because they wouldn't have that knowledge, even if you currently live in Brandon.
Right. That actually really makes sense. I never thought of that before that way. Yeah. So being able to do that and having someone on your side is such a bonus when you are looking at properties and things like that, versus, like you said, who's looking after the vendor. So is there, do you find that there's a conflict of interest for somebody who you're looking at, you're using them as your real estate agent, but they also are showing you a house that they've listed? Do you think that there's a conflict of interest, or how do we combat that?
Actually, there is a form that the buyer would have to sign in that situation. And it explains actually the relationship with the realtor. So as soon as a realtor enters you might want to edit some of this because I'm losing my words. As soon as a realtor enters in a situation when they'll be representing both parties, they have different duties to each of them. And those are designed to really protect both parties as much as possible. But you need to discuss this with your realtor once you're getting into that kind of a relationship.
Perfect. That's really good. I love that, because I really do. I am a customer service person. So I will forever go to a store that it doesn't matter if it costs me more, if it's further to drive, if it's, harder for me to get there or anything like that. I will forever visit that store for customer service, even if I can get something for cheaper, faster, quicker service, anything like that, closer to me or less, inconvenient, something that's more convenient. I will always pick somebody who gives better customer service. So for me, that's a huge thing for me. And so word of mouth is really great for me as well, because I'm talking to somebody, I'm like, hey, you should visit Cindy over at the real estate agent because I really liked how she served me. So customer service, I think that having someone working for you, actually looking after your needs, is one of my favorite things that you've just said, because that's something that I think that a lot of people aren't sure of when they're buying a house, that they can actually do that.
Exactly.
Really cool. Yeah, that is really cool. Awesome. So thank you, Cindy, for sharing all of that wonderful information. I really love that we can come on here and chat about those things. And I love also that you're a mom in business too, because that's the same with me. I'm a mom in business, and that for me is always fun to talk about. See how other moms, do time management and stuff like that. So I really appreciate your take on that. So Cindy, is there anything else that you want to share with me today at all?
No, I think we covered all the bases.
Awesome. That sounds good. So where can people connect with you? Where can they find you online?
Well, I am on Facebook at Cindy Grenier Realtor. And I do have my website at www.cindygrenier.realtor. My email at cindy.grenier@kw.com, or on my phone 204-330-2567. If you do visit my website, I have a blog on there. There's a lot of valuable information for buyers and sellers, homeowners, when it comes to design tips for their homes or how to prep for a sale. So you can definitely take a look at that and reach me on my website.
Awesome. Sounds good. And we do have that running across the bottom of the screen here as well. So if anybody is interested, you can connect with her there. Thank you, Cindy, for coming on with me this morning and sharing all of these wonderful tips. I really loved having our chat. And so great. I look forward to seeing you in the future, and hopefully we can chat again sometime.
Sounds great. Thanks for having me.
All right. You betcha. We'll talk to you later.
Okay, bye.
Bye-bye.